There's a highball controversy brewing, and it's got nothing to do with whiskey. 2 weeks ago, Highlanders centre Jason Emery red carded and then suspended for 4 weeks for that hit on Willie LaRue. And then last week it was Stormers winger Leland Zas slipped going into contact with Bernard Foley, and he's been suspended for 2 weeks or missed one match. It's, refs are obviously taking quite a hard line on this, but did they get the calls right there?
No. I thought the Zas one was poorly handled. The Emery one, you can almost understand. So his eye wasn't actually on the ball. But, let's just take it a step back. I've done some digging, and I've found the exact directive from World Rugby to referees. So let's rather just go through that and go by the book. Okay. Is it a fair challenge? Yes, play on, obviously. No. Should it be a penalty kick, yellow card or red card? Penalty only. It's not a fair challenge with a wrong timing. No pulling down or wrong timing means reasonable. Just a penalty. Borderline Zas. Yellow card. It's not a fair challenge. There's no contest and the player lands on his back or side. Worries me because you're penalising the eventuality and not the intent. Okay, but that's the yellow card. Yellow card. It's not a deliberate foul play action, but the player lands in a dangerous position. Again, how the player lands. In the only instance that you give a red card, it's not a fair challenge. There is a deliberate action with no contest and the player lands in a dangerous position. Can that possibly describe the Zas incident? No. So, perhaps, Emery, no, wasn't going for the ball, perhaps could have changed. I had quite a nice little spat with James, well, not a spat, a discussion on Twitter. And I said, James, you of all people will understand going at 10 meters a second, because unlike props, we don't understand that. How do you change direction? Is it that simple just to change direction? But perhaps you can argue that Emery could have. So red card, understandable. Zas, definitely on the ball, definitely slipped. Not a red card.
But why is it so complicated? I mean, we're asking the referee now to decide whether something is dangerous or not dangerous. He's got to manage offside lines that he can't see. There's imaginary gates. There's all sorts of nonsense. It's impossible for a referee to decide in the heat of a moment whether a guy's landed on his side or his back or his front. I mean, it's just way too anatomical. Shouldn't the law be, if you're going to go up for the high ball, the guy that goes up for it first has all the rights to it. If you go up second and you do interfere with him, then you are sanctioned.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of points there. One, I mean, you want the aerial contest to stay in the game.
Sure,
okay, so we do want it to stay there. Two, and it's a point that we've made before on the show, is that if you're going to refer to the TMO, why not refer it wholly?
Sure.
That it comes down, like in the Zas incident. I got the feeling that the TMO was saying, listen, hold the phone, buddy. He slipped. Does it really require a red card? But, Fraser just bulldozed through to the red card. If referring, refer wholly.
Yeah.
They've got the flat screen.
Yeah.
And then the third point is to intent. I think you and I agree is that you punish the intent, not what happens. So if a guy throws a punch and misses, is that's as bad as punching and hitting and knocking his teeth out.
Absolutely.
So I think punish the intent, not the eventuality.
Yeah.
Or what happens, what unfolds.
Yeah. Okay, so Tankers, you're talking about intent there. I mean, there's this clip here of Nizam Kar going up against Falau. I mean, clearly the guy's not going for the ball there, but because it's a big guy, he kind of holds his ground, lands on his feet, or, he looks after himself, and there's no sanction.
Yeah, so two things. I like your point about a big guy. Falau is a giant, so he came down safely. However, I'd put my life on it that Fraser was influenced by the red card that he'd already given. I mean, it was only a couple of minutes later, and suddenly, fair contest. How was that possibly different from what Zas did? Yet that was a fair contest. And I think, that's one of the issues that World Rugby needs to address and address swiftly.
Let's get to question of the week from our Twitter followers. After the Lions drubbing, they took a bit of a pasting there from the Hurricanes. Does South African rugby have the players to compete with the best teams in the world?
Oh, brutal question. I see there's been some stats done on Twitter as well. Is it so the Lions, according to this guy's analysis, have played 3 of the top 9 sides in the tournament. Stormers and Bulls obviously haven't.
Yeah.
So where are they? And yet they took 50, on the weekend from one of the top sides in the tournament. Bottom line is we don't know. No one knows. The lopsided structure means that not every side
There's no way to
plays
measure
against
it.
So the sad thing is almost the logs don't reflect where we are in the tournament right now. The weekend gives us an indication that, there's the one thing we can deduce. Those Kiwi sides are a whole lot better than the rest of us.
Yeah.
The sole Aussie side that'll be represented in the quarterfinals has got less points than 4 of the Kiwi sides.
Wow.
So, and South Africa's not looking a whole lot better. So where do we stand? We don't know, but it's certainly looking like those Kiwi sides are dominating properly.
Yeah, there's a couple of hints as to why the Kiwis are doing so well in our infographic on Vodacom Rugby this week.
Indeed.
Make sure you check that out, guys. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and be sure to stick with us as we head through the rest of Super Rugby, and hit us up with your questions on Twitter using the hashtag ThinkTank. Until next time, ciao.